So let's now turn our attention to Objective 5. Describe 4 criteria used to determine whether resources and capabilities are core competencies. So this is when we're looking at valuable, rare, non-substitutable, and not possible to imitate. These are our 4 criteria. So, core competencies are capabilities that serve as a source of competitive advantage for a firm over its rivals. They distinguish the firm competitively and give it a unique identity. Think about the difference between Apple and Samsung, for example, or in the video example we've described both Telstra and Apple, and they've been compared to some of their competitors. Tesla and Apple, I should say. Organisational core competencies can be created with intent, but usually emerge over time through a process that the organisation goes through in accumulating and learning how to deploy different resources and capabilities in the best way, a way that leads you to having a competence. Every core competency is a capability, but not every capability is a core competency. A capability only becomes a core competency when it is valuable and non-substitutable for customers, and when it's unique or rare and costly to imitate for competitors. So valuable capabilities help the firm to neutralize its threats from other companies and exploit opportunities. So Apple's brand is a valuable capability. Apple's ability to innovate, Apple's ability to market are all Apple's unique supply chain are all valuable capabilities that that give them an advantage. Apple has a rare position in its branding. Apple and it possesses through its ecosystem, through the unique operations of what was formerly its App Store, but now has been broken into separate segments, rare capabilities that are not possessed by others. Google has valuable capabilities through its size, through its dominance of search engine, through its dominance of the ability to monetize that search engine. But also it's rare. It's the only one. It's the only search engine with that power. The third criteria is costly to imitate capabilities. These can come out because of historical background of the company, a culture, a brand name, a history, ownership of particular areas, ownership of sites, access to resources that they can utilize effectively. They can be ambiguous. Sometimes it's not clear what is the source of the competency, what is the source of the capability to people looking from outside the firm. Sometimes it's not even clear to people looking at inside the firm, which means it's hard for another company to imitate. And complexity. If it's socially complex, if it's based on the interpersonal relationships between individuals in the firm, or between the firm and its suppliers, or the firm and its customers, or the firm and government, where trust and friendship between managers, suppliers, and customers lead to you having something that can't be easily duplicated. And finally, non-substitutable. Is there a strategic equivalent? Is there something that you can do instead of accessing that particular company's product, that particular company's service? Can you in fact find another way to deliver the same or at least a similar outcome to potential customers so that they will value it and you can be competitive? If you have different combinations of rare, valuable, hard to imitate, and non-substitutability, you get different outcomes, different competitive consequences. You also get different performance implications. So this table here is one of the important tables that you should look at. This table here summarizes how different combinations of capabilities lead to different competitive consequences and performance implications. So if you have a resource that's not rare, that's not valuable, that's not difficult or costly to imitate, and there are substitutes for it, well, you're at a competitive disadvantage. You've got nothing special about your firm, about that product. And you're likely in the marketplace, therefore, to have below average returns. If you have a valuable capability, but it's not rare, so other companies can get the same capability, and it's not costly to imitate, so even if they can't get that capability, they can do something very similar, and there may or may not be substitutes, you are likely to have competitive parity, and you get average returns. Average compared with the industry, you're sort of on equal footing with the people in the industry because they have the access to the same things. There's nothing so you're equal, but the things you've got are still valuable things, so the customer wants it. If you have something that's rare and valuable, but it is not costly to imitate, and may or may not be substitutable, you can get a series of temporary competitive advantages. And there are firms that keep renewing their product. Even if we look at Apple and Samsung, one of the reasons they continuously renew their products, each year you get a new launch. In motor vehicles, each year you get a new launch with changes and new features, because their features will give them a temporary advantage over their competitor, and then that will balance out in the next year. Television sets are an example of that, where we have Samsung and LG fighting each other, releasing a new feature, releasing a different feature, one using QLED, one using OLED, competing with each other, different capabilities, different competencies, but giving them a series of temporary competitive advantages until a new competitor comes in place. If you can effectively manage your temporary competitive advantage, you're going to get at least average returns, and you can get above average returns if you keep renewing these temporary competitive advantages by releasing new products, by updating your product, by adding new features. Finally, if you have a resource that's valuable, rare, is costly to imitate, and is not easily substitutable, you are likely to have a sustained competitive advantage. This is Apple. Overall, as to see from Apple's individual products, Apple has a rare, valuable, and hard to imitate ecosystem. Though other organisations also have these ecosystems, iTunes, that do the same thing as iTunes. But when you buy an Apple phone, you're trapped in their ecosystem. When you buy something that runs on Android, well, every other Android competitor gives you some type of choice. So if you can stay within the Android environment and still get different phones from different brands, for example. So if you have these rare, valuable, costly to imitate, and non-substitutable capability, you can get sustainable competitive advantage and above average returns. So there's 2 or 3 videos for you to watch that explain these things in more detail. One looks at Tesla and Apple. There's a couple of videos that explain the VRIN and VRIO models, 2 slightly different models of rare, valuable, hard to imitate, non-substitutable, just to give you a more detailed explanation. Watch those videos, and then we'll come back, and the next section of the lecture looks at Objective 6.